Welcome back to the Leashed Mind podcast. I'm your host, Mandy Boutelle. On today's episode, I have a conversation with another one of my very dear friends, Karishma Warr from Calm Canine Academy. This conversation spans various topics, including challenges faced in dog training, the significance of mental health in both personal life and professional practice, and the journey towards personal growth. They discuss the importance of positive reinforcement, empathy, and understanding neurodiversity in dog training. Karishma shares their personal experience, emphasizing the impact of trauma and the necessity of supportive communities within the industry. They also touch upon their work in mentoring other trainers and creating an inclusive and nurturing environment for both dogs and trainers. The conversation is interspread with personal anecdotes, showcasing a deep connection and mutual respect between both Karishma and I. So I have admired Karishma for years and how they operate their business. If you listen to the Bitey End of the Dog podcast by Mike Shikashio, there is an episode where Karishma joins Mike, and Karishma really digs into how they operate their business and really strives and works very hard to prioritize the mental well-being for both them and for their staff, so that they're all feeling good about what they do and not, trying their best as possible to help prevent, and I would say prevent, not avoid, prevent burnout. I think when I heard that episode that Karishma was on with Mike, and they really just kind of peeled back the layers of their business and explained how they operate it in such a way, I knew I had to have them on the podcast. I knew that getting Karishma's take on mental health and the dog training industry and being a business owner of quite a bit of staff, there are so many things that you want to pick from their brain, because you're just like, how are they able to do it? Especially being a fairly newer business and a business that operates a lot virtually and spreads to continents. So how do they do it? How do they still really put effort into prioritizing their mental well-being? And I'm not going to say avoiding burnout, but really working hard to prevent and bounce back from it when it happens. So this conversation is amazing. It's so good. It feels like a hug. So let's get into it. I have Karishma Warr here from Calm Canine Academy. Karishma, it is about damn time I've had you on this podcast. We have been planning this and excited for a while now. So it's finally here. We've manifested it. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my God, thank you so much for inviting me. Like I said before, I've been binging the podcast over the last few days, and it's been so fun. So if anyone hasn't listened to the first season, go back, because it's really good.
I'm curious really quick, what have been your favorite episodes so far?
Standout episodes. You know what? I'm always everything Mike does, I'm like, oh, the swagger.
That's the most listened to one.
It's the swagger. He's just got it. What is it? He's aggression daddy. Isn't that what you said the other day? It cracked me up so much. We're
allowed to say that, but I will give Gio and Taylor from Smart Bitch said that originally. And ever since they said that, I was like, yes. So if Mike is listening or watching,
you're officially aggression daddy, literally. And everything that Mike does, I'm just like, ooh, that was smooth. I'm going to steal little nugs from that and file them away in my repertoire of cool human things that you can do. That might have been the most autistic thing I've ever said. So Mike, obviously, just for the cool factor, and then always Mama Milena. I'm a CSAT as well, and I literally, they're like mom and dad to me. I think of them like my doggy mom and dad, and even if they don't really know this, and ew, Karishma, we didn't discuss this. You got a little brown baby now, guys.
Reparenting at its finest.
And Milena was great. I love how Milena was talking about how that she doesn't actually often take 2 days off in a row and screw that, and that's what works for her. And I was like, oh, thank God, because
that made me feel so much better.
Like that too. Yeah. It made me feel so much better. So really great. Loved it too. Mom and dad, basically.
I love that. Those are good episodes. And if you guys haven't listened to those, go listen to those, because I think it's when I had the conversations, it was very reassuring to know that people of that level of professionalism feel that way still while they're navigating this. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is normal human shit to feel this way. I'm not an imposter. This is normal. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just the human experience, just part of it, and how there might never be a point where we're not worrying about these things, and that's okay. It's more of a dance. No, it's okay. No, Mandy, it's cool. Lean in. It's going to be chill. We've got this. Like, we're going to be able to be exposed to those triggers and not have overreactions. We just need to, like, it's a process, right? And we might be like in our 50s and 60s and still like managing it in some way. And that's okay. And like, I don't have to be like, why aren't I done yet? Like, why haven't I trained myself to be perfect, a perfect little capitalist machine, and just do everything perfectly without needing much.
Without
So,
being triggered and having an emotional, normal human response. Like, how dare you?
yeah.
I love
How
that
dare I have needs. Yeah.
you always kind of tie it back to like dog training. And I feel like that's something like us neurodivergent folks try to do to make it more relatable and easier for us to take it in and connect the dots more of like, I do it for myself all the time. I'm like, what's my management strategy? How am I going
What's
to
my
desensitize myself to this? Like,
Yeah, it's a script, it's a framework, right? And for me, all of the healing that I've done for myself in my mental health and in terms of how I like relate to the world, especially as like a brown person and then you're a divergent person and a disabled person, we can talk about that later, but like a large amount of that work was unlocked through learning about animal training and animal behavior. So it was I was like imprinted, you know, the little duckling that imprints. I like imprinted on dog training. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is the first thing I've heard that made sense.
oh, I'm
Okay.
sure.
And
That's
from
why we're all
out,
here. Yeah.
right? That's why we're all here. And that's why it's so pivotal. And we have like a creepy saying at CCA, which is dog training is everything and everything is dog training.
But it's so true if you really like crack your brain open and think of it that way. It is.
Literally. And it's such a useful metaphor because we have been trained as dog professionals to moderate our emotional responses, to be able to engage certain behaviors in response to certain antecedents. And so we can like hijack that learning that we've already done. And by then just extrapolating it into something else, it's generalizing. We're like generalizing what we've learned about dog training and then applying it to like our mental health, society, our conceptions of gender, our conceptions of everything, blah, 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 you know, ecology, you know, it goes
Oh,
on
yeah,
and
hair
on and on.
splits and yeah.
Amazing. I love it. It's so sexy. Oh, it's juicy. You're like, just want to bite it.
Well, I'm curious if you've experienced this. If we talk about like therapy and things like that like later on, but I've noticed that in therapy for myself, I mention a lot of dog training things. And my therapist will be like, oh, that's a dog training thing. I'm like, trigger stacking? Oh, yeah. And I'll say that all the time. And she'll be like, oh my God. And she'll write it down and be like, I want to start using that. Like, that's totally a thing. And I remember I had to explain trigger stacking to her. And she was like, oh, yeah, you're just getting overstimulated and overwhelmed. I'm like, boom. Yes, exactly. And it's interesting just seeing all those ways that overlap. And I think it makes us, I don't want to say it's easier to tap into our mental health and focus on that, but I think it really helps us have a better understanding of it because we have the understanding of like, you know, say a reactive dog that's having a hard time. If we can crack that open and be like, wait, I'm the reactive dog in this situation. That makes
100%. Oh, 100%. I think there are like two different ways that we need to like internalize these like at their core, these like holistic lessons, right? And one is we need to understand why the dog's performing the behavior and be able to explain that. And then we need to regulate ourselves while we guide the dog and the human through the learning process. So there's like a theoretical understanding, and then we have to actually live it and like be there physically often. If we work in person, which I did for many years, you've got to regulate your heart rate when the dog's like barking and lunging. You've got to learn to not be like, shut up when the little Shih Tzu's yapping at you for like the 25th time that day. And you're just trying to make a website, you know, to buy the dog food. You know, you have to learn how to do all of that. And it's directly inner work. It's like, it is healing work. Healing work is integratively tied up in the process, I think, of learning how to take care of animals. And I think that's why this topic is so important and one that's been coming up more because we're starting to develop the language now, right? Like we're seeing how it compares. And it's the same with me, I have a psychiatrist who is really interested and always asks me all these questions about dog training. I'm like, stop. Oh, do you want to pay me or what? Like, I'm paying you. What are you doing? Yeah, but well, not because they want free information by any means. They're just interested in the correlations and find it interesting to like hear, I think, and talk about it. But for me, part of my boundaries is that I struggle. I talk a lot for someone who doesn't like to talk very much. I talk a lot for my work. And those words are precious to me. Like, so I would definitely have had her bring things up and he'd be like, ha, yes, so back to my thing. But there's so many overlaps. It's wild.
I love that because it is true that like, and I think this is the same thing for like, there's just a profession that we're really interested in and we want to learn more about it. And then we just like keep asking questions and they're like, I don't want to talk about my job anymore. But then when it comes to dog training, we forget that like that's really fascinating to some people that know nothing about it. And it's interesting because you're like, it's behavior, it's psychology. But they're like, but it's an animal, it's different.
Yeah. And that's something I enjoy, actually. I enjoy seeing people's like sense of wonder. And the job that we do, it's one of the things that helps bring me joy is to remember that, because you're in the middle of it and it's so hard to not be bogged down by all the things that are challenging about this job. But just remembering every now and again, I'm like, oh, wow, I work with pretty cool dogs, you know, like that's pretty neat. Get to like hang out with dogs all the time. And it's a nice job to remind ourselves of that. Like there's something really cool that we're all doing. Like little me would be like, wow.
Right. Right. And I feel like that's something that a lot of us forget of like, this is something, we're going to get deep here.
That's good. Okay.
Because my therapist, she brought up to me and this is all the inner child work, but she was like, every version of you, toddler, child, teenager, mid-20s, all those pieces are still in you. And I think a lot of us forget that as we get older, like those pieces of us are still in there and we still need to honor those pieces of us and get excited about the things that they would get excited about. And 10-year-old Mandy would be so stoked that she got to end up working with dogs. And then 16-year-old Mandy with peak anxiety is probably so proud of me being able to work from home full time and not have to go be social. Like, but like, we don't see that when we hit this certain adult age. We're just exhausted and grinding. And we're not like, wait a second, like all these past versions of me would be so fucking proud of where I am now. Or they wouldn't have thought I'd get to where I am now, you know?
Absolutely. And that's something that helps me with the hustle culture stuff, which is so deeply entrenched. Yeah, we're bringing out the kind of trigger words, hustle culture. Let's go. Like, I was enjoying listening to Mike's episode in season 1 because he was talking about his experience as an East Asian American and as a South Asian British person, grew up in London, in the UK, or mixed race, Indian Irish. We were always brought up with this like just relentless drive to achieve and produce and prove your worth. And I see the function of all of that as a need for safety, right? Within immigrant communities, with families who were born elsewhere in India, Africa, came over with limited network. What they're looking for by pushing us is to create a sense of safety. It's exactly what the dog guardians are doing when they're pushing their reactive dogs. They're trying to get them to be better, be better, be better. Come on, it's going to be fine, but you have to do this thing.
Just get to the other side.
Yeah, just keep going. And yeah, for me, that's been something I've been dismantling significantly. I literally have forgotten what the question was and why I started this conversation, because you've moved ever so slightly.
Oh my God.
Everything is gone. No, it's not your fault at all. Like you did a normal human thing.
No, I totally forgot.
It's gone. It's gone now. So there was a small environmental shift and we are just completely incapable of moving forward. And that's fine.
I saw it in your eyes. You did this like scan and I was like, fuck, Karishma just lost their train of thought. Fuck.
Karishma's gone. We lost them.
This is the most neurodivergent episode ever. Because the second I got up, I was like, what did I ask them?
Why am I? Who am I? What is this? Probably lights on me. We were generally talking about like this idea of hustle culture, I think was where we were starting. This idea that I have to do too much. That's something that I've been really working to move away from recently. Mike was telling me about how he was doing something similar he was telling you in the podcast. Mike was talking to me about this thing, and he was saying similar things about how like that's something he had to really dismantle. And that's been the biggest thing I think over the last like year for me, has been that journey for me of like starting to kind of work less and be okay with working less and not feel like I'm doing something wrong by working less.
Ooh.
It's a hard one. I feel like you struggle with that too.
Is it noticeable? Is it that noticeable? Oops. I'm glad you said that because wait, is it noticeable though?
Absolutely not, Mandy. Not even slightly. Nobody knows. We're all here. We have no idea why we're here even and listening to you talk about this. It's not noticeable in a bad way. Not in a bad way. In a way that I like how you notice my eyes flicker. Right? I don't think that's a bad thing. That's just like a fact of me. Like sometimes if there's an piece of environmental change and I'm under pressure, I might just lose my train of thought, and that's fine. And it's not bad or good, right? Like maybe it is noticeable for you, but that's also fine. Like, it's not a bad thing.
First of all, there's no pressure. We are friends just talking about mental health, first of all.
I know.
But no, I fucking struggle with it big time. My value is always in my worth. And that's never something that the irony in that is growing up, ironically enough, most of my family is brown. I am the only white redhead in my entire family. I am the redheaded stepchild. I came out looking exactly like my grandpa and my dad. No traits
Wow,
of
that's so cool.
I need to find a family photo because there's a photo of little tiny Mandy, red, pale skin, and everyone else is brown, dark hair because my family is primarily Filipino. So I was always told, oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so gorgeous. So all my value was put into my looks, and that was my self-worth. And then it somehow transitioned into all my value was in because I wanted to prove that I was more than a pretty face. And so which is high fucking society, being a woman. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to work hard, have a fucking business and show you that I'm more than that and more than being a stupid, superficial hairstylist because no one took me seriously when I did that. And then it was, oh no, now all my value is in my work. And if I'm not productive, I'm just a dead fish floating to the surface. And I told my therapist because I have PMDD, I have 2 horrible weeks every month where everything is awful. What's the point of going on? I have no value. And I'm working through that. But I told her yesterday, I had a therapy session and I was like, I'm ahead of all my work. I am 2-3 weeks ahead of everything. I have the time to gave myself that day of sit with your feelings, be sad, eat junk food, watch your shows, do your thing. My husband's like, yes, do that. You need that. I do that. I sit on the couch, scroll on my phone, and then I'm still kind of just I should be working. I took a day off of work that I should have had. I wasn't productive, therefore I stopped. And of course, the logical brain inside is going, okay, you're ahead of schedule. You're ahead of all your client work. You have the flexibility. So why are you doing this to yourself? And it's if I'm not productive, I suck. And I think all of us, we have some type of, can't think of the word, internal thing telling us that our worth is not there. We're not valuable if we're resting, if we're not
100%.
taking time for ourselves. And so I'm curious, where you have kind of been in that journey, in that spectrum, and how you've kind of learned to communicate with yourself in a way of "Whoa, hey," how you would talk to yourself is because I think a lot of the times, hi, I'm rambling. A lot of the times we talk to ourselves not how we would talk to a friend or a spouse or a partner. We are I am so mean to myself. Yes, or to our dogs. Yes. But if I were to talk like that to a friend, they'd probably slap me across the face. Really.
100%. And if I heard anyone talk to anyone I knew like that, I'd be like, what a toxic person.
Right.
It's something that I've been working on myself as well. It's really funny that you make this trajectory that you have of someone socialized as a woman growing up, being told that your worth is important. Similarly to me, fairest skinned of all of my family, including my brother, I'm just much fairer. And in lots of cultures, that's really something that you're gassed up about that a lot. It's made your identity, right? People like that often. And it's like they said, you're so beautiful, you're so beautiful. You put so much of your worth in that. I had a similar trajectory. It was very much about looks, and then it became about my business. Appearance, and then this kind of change to the business, both of which very societally endorsed things to be dysfunctional around. And I was just being reinforced all over the place for this, and that was the trap.
And it's all that external validation.
Yeah. And at its core, it's capitalist, it's colonial, it's patriarchal, it's racist. It's all of those things that we hopefully are trying to move away from within ourselves and then within our societies and our relationships. But it's hard. So my recent, have you read Pleasure Activism?
No.
Dropping a book in here.
Oh,
Mandy, I'm going to message this to you.
Yes,
Pleasure Activism is a book all about pleasure and enjoyment. And I can find the name of the author. It's all about how we can use our own pleasure as a radical political tool and a social tool. What is it at the root of consistently working and being obsessed with productivity? It's an inability to enjoy oneself. It's like the dog that's ball obsessed or obsessed with chasing the birds in the yard or unable to just settle down. You can't just air scent and stand there and enjoy being alive. You can't just enjoy the sun, these are things that I would never have given myself permission to enjoy before. Like, I don't have time to lay down on the grass outside and
I was
let
just
the
going to say
sun
time. Like, we got to go.
let
We
the
got to.
sun be. Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
scarcity mindset. But it's just capitalist propaganda. Honestly, like, that's how I see it. That helps me detach from it because I've done a lot of work to like move away from that thinking politically. So it makes sense to kind of trickle down into the way that I navigate my day-to-day life. And I don't always listen to myself anymore when my body says, oh, you should work for 12 hours, Karishma. Yeah, you should remake that whole website and make it just a little bit better, but probably the exact same as before. I now look at that impulse the same way that I look at my dog's impulse to rush up at a new stranger and get way too close and then freak out. I'm like, haha, lol, as if you do not know how to take care of yourself, little puppy. And I'll have to like literally redirect myself. So it's part of this thing. I acknowledge that I have been conditioned by all of these systems and that's not working in my favor. And I also don't believe that's who I am. Am I out the other side where I can like wake up and be productive, but also enjoy moments of rest presently, fluently, and switch between those two? Hell fucking no, absolutely not. I'm like stage 1 mat relaxation, you know, the mat's coming down, I'm laying down, you know, I'm really at the beginning. But it's a skill, right, that you learn. I'm hoping that I'll learn that. That's like my 30s, I think that's what I'm going to do. But read Pleasure Activism because it's all about this idea that like the disenfranchised, the folks who live in the margins have been denied pleasure, right? By society. We don't deserve it. We have to earn it in some way. And it's this dismantling of this concept and then like framing it in a way that makes a lot of sense to me. Like, oh, of course we feel the need to overachieve. It's because we've been mocked for losing our train of thought when we're in a classroom and 500 things are happening, right? It's not our fault, but of course we had that learning experience and that's going to inform our future behavior, right? I panicked a little bit when I lost my train of thought just then. Like I had a little internal moment. I know it's I look at it like a puppy, you know? It's like, oh, the puppy got a bit upset because they couldn't get puppies. Oh, the sweet puppy, are you okay? Yes, you're fine. Off you go, right? Like,
That's such a sweet way to handle yourself, though. It is.
It helps. It helps because I've already done it with the puppies and they're all cute and looking at me with their little eyes and it makes it easier for me to not be a jerk, right? So I try to hijack that and I go like, okay, so, you know, I lost my train of thought. I was like, the internal voice starts, you know, oh my God, this is going to be awful. You're not going to make it back. You're going to have a panic attack. You're going to be awful. And then I just go like, oh, look, that's happening. How silly. Isn't that a bit of a silly puppy, what you're doing over there? And then like 5 minutes later, I'm fine. Like I don't care anymore. But before, I wouldn't have been able to do that like many puppy parents. I would feel that and then go, oh my God, my puppy's broken. I'm the worst dog parent. I'm going to message my dog trainer 5,000 times.
Yes.
I'm then going to yell at the puppy. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole of using punishment because I'm so uncomfortable with what the puppy's doing. You know, it's like grasping. Anyway, but it's this like, you can't stop doing stuff. Just stick with it. It's fine. It's okay.
Oh, sitting with it's hard.
Sitting with it is so hard.
It's so hard because it's uncomfortable. You don't want to feel it. You don't want to acknowledge where it is, where you're at, and that you fucked up. But you're human.
Even that you fucked up. It's just that there was a series of antecedents that took place, many of which were outside of your control, and then a thing happened. Like, I wouldn't even say you fucked up. It's just like, oh, an event took place. Like, oops. There wouldn't be a tornado, and you would be like, Mother Nature fucked up. You'd be like, oh, there was a tornado. It was a barometric event that took place because of all these other things that happened before. I really try to think of it like that. And it helps me not blame myself, which then unlocks the ability to change behavior because you're no longer just like weighed down by shame.
Right. Oh, you are cracking so many things open right now. No, it's so good. I think so many people are just going to be like, oh, fuck, yeah.
But I don't want to get the impression that I've got this down. Like, I certainly have not got this down. In fact, the last 3 months have been the most chaotic and like up and down of starting my career. Like, well, not starting my career, that's a lie. I really excelled in the chaos at the beginning. In the last 3 years of CCA, of working at Calm Canine Academy, the last 3-4 months have been the most chaotic. And it's because of the culmination of fast growth, financial, we're in a recession, everyone's feeling it hit a little bit hard, and then just put that in with mental health stuff, and you've got a tough few months when you have such a big crew. I have like a big team now, and it's a lot of responsibility. So I crashed hard, I burnt out, I was crispy just 3 months ago. So I'm not sitting here being like, I got it. Like, I'm like, I think I kind of see what's going on, but really I'm still not, I haven't quite got it yet. But does that sound right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. We're on the same fucking wavelength because I was so burnt out by like, my jaw is like tensing up. Like April, I was so burnt out for like a good, like, yeah, massage your own jaw.
I'm feeling yours now, so I'm getting in there.
Yeah, like April to May, I was so burnt out because it was just like my mom used to call me a future tripper. Like I think 10 steps ahead and I panic of all the steps in between of all these things I need to accomplish. They're not big, huge things, but me looking at the big picture, I get overwhelmed and go, oh, I don't need to do it, right? Like, and so that hit me and I just hit a fucking wall because I didn't take care of myself. I was go, 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 crashed and burned. And then I was like, oh, saw the path that got here, followed it, started on that. So how do I reevaluate? And I think so many of us, you included, we hit that wall and then we think, fuck, I'm a piece of shit. I got here. I'm burnt out. How am I going to keep this going? I shouldn't get burnt out. Successful people don't get burnt out. I say that so many air quotes around that because successful people do get burnt out because we work, we love what we do. And I don't think, who did I talk to about this? Sarah Strumming, we had a conversation like a month or so ago, and she was like, people like you get, oh, I took my medication, I swear, the brain, it's just the hamster is very slow.
Freshen it, let that that's the thing. It'll come, there's no rush. It's just me.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too.
She was saying that, a lot of us get told like we can't work or that like it's a bad thing that we work so much or we shouldn't like working that much. I said this to my husband because he loves working too, and working eases his anxiety and he feels accomplished. And it's like for those of us that love what we do and love working, like there is nothing wrong with loving that, but I think we need to take care of ourselves in the process so that we can continue loving it. And I think that goes to the whole hustle culture thing of just like you're working too hard, you're doing too much, you're burning yourself out. And it's like, okay, well, but it's gratifying for us to expand and grow our business and help people. That's why we do this. And I think it's just like learning to take better care of ourselves. And that comes with time and networking and finding our people. So on that note, I want to know how you feel about that and how you've worked to kind of accumulate your people in order to really make that work for you. A double-ended question.
This is the biggest thing that I was thinking about before coming on here. I was like, what is it that's got me able to recover from that burnout that I experienced a few months ago so much faster than I would have done 3 years ago? And it was one of the worst burnouts of my professional career, but that was because it was the first time I'd ever burnt out in community. So I've always been it's been a very private, shameful thing. I'm burning out. No one look at me. I don't exist. And then I come back and I'm perfect and I'm shiny and hello. Everything is great. But this time I have a team of like 15 people who I'm meant to be like taking care of. That's how I think of it. I'm meant to be taking care of the people who are working in my business and making sure that they have what they need. And there was a few months where I had to be like, I cannot do that. I was like, sorry guys, I'm literally unable to deliver on some of the things that I said I was going to be able to do. This is why. Transparency. And the reason it was so hard for me was because I then immediately went into, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This is the worst thing ever. But they all came through and went, yeah, of course you're burning out. No worries. Here, we'll do this. I'll take this on. I'll do this. And I was like, holy shit. And that was like the most empowering experience, I think, for me, because I realized that I've done it for them in the past without even really thinking.
Right.
And,
so that,
but when it comes to me, I just assumed that that would never happen because that's never been how I've been treated before by communities that I was a part of. Any sort of failure is perceived as like a moral failure, like you are bad, rather than the antecedent arrangements were incorrect or there's a need not being met, right? And to this topic of drive and work, like there's nothing wrong with being driven by your work. And often that is a result that your work creates community for you, right? When you're as neurodivergent people, we might not get along. Okay, I'm autistic, I have ADHD. I have a physical disability. I'm half Indian, half Irish. I don't get along with my neighbors. There's a unique intersection of experiences you need to have to like get along with me in many cases. And for me to get along with you, we're very similar in many ways. Many people in this industry are, right? We find our people. So of course we're driven to like be a part of that community. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Just like there's nothing wrong with like a dog that's super driven to hunt cooperatively with a human being, right? Can that become maladaptive and unhealthy if we don't create balance? I think yes, in both animals, right? So my dog Hera, very driven to hunt cooperatively. Me, very driven to hunt cooperatively. But with work, I'm hunting. I'm bringing in reinforcement, my money, the control over over my environment. I get to control my weekly routine. We're doing the same thing. We're out there controlling our environment and negotiating different outcomes. Hero can become obsessively like hunty to the point that he injures himself.
Oh, but
I can become obsessively worky to the point that I injure myself. I can work for 2 weeks without taking a break, and get the flu because I just haven't been sleeping enough, right?
Yep.
It's
Run
the
yourself
same
into the
thing.
ground.
It's the same thing, right? He's a little anxious poodle who has had learning experiences that cause him to potentially be unbalanced in the way that he seeks out reinforcement. And it's the same for me. And I always say that Hero's autistic. Like he can't not. Maybe he is. I don't know how it works. I haven't known enough about neurobiology, but like it really seems like he is. And I feel like especially for us neurodivergent people, like that community is so important. That drive is so part of that community. And then creating balance is how you can work without it becoming maladaptive. And it's the same with the fetch conversation, right? You can still play fetch, just like take some breaks, right? You can still work, just like take some breaks. Much harder than that, obviously.
I was just gonna say it's so much harder than that. I think
No, it just takes breaks.
but it's setting up our environment in a way. Like
Exactly,
I have developed this rule with myself: accomplish a task, go take 5-10 minute break. I don't just walk out of my office for 5 to 10 minutes. And it helps. It changes my mental state. It changes my mood. I'm not obsessing. I'm not getting in that hyper focused state that will burn me out. But it's a learned skill. We're training ourselves and it takes fucking time. But setting up the environment in a way that works best for us, finding what works, what doesn't work. I have learned that I can't have music when I am typing. Brown noise is very helpful when I have to type because I just need to like shut my fucking brain up so I can look at words and type them. If I am listening to music with lyrics, I'll start typing and I'll lose my train of thought. It's too overstimulating for me.
I am obsessed with that. Those antecedent arrangements, it's so important. And that there's nothing wrong for needing those antecedent arrangements to be adjusted. This is something that we did like a webinar the other day on managing reactivity. And I was trying to frame management as an access need.
Ooh, explain that.
So we have a dog who is in pain because they have arthritis and they're 2 years old. And so they're really sound sensitive as a result of that. And what they require in order to sleep enough to be healthy is white noise plus the radio, and they need to have the door closed so that they can't be right by the front door, being triggered by every single noise. Some people look at that and go, oh, that's so annoying. When will I be able to stop doing that for my dog? Some people look at people who want wheelchair access and ramps onto buildings in the same way. They're like, oh, this is such an inconvenience. When can it stop being my problem? It's not going to stop being your problem, potentially, right? Like it might continue being your problem. And that's just like part of being a living creature. And that's actually a good thing. Lean into it because it'll make you happier if you actually start thinking this way. But I don't know. That's what I think about when I think about you sitting down and putting that white noise on. Like I've definitely been told I was wrong for needing the accommodations that I needed, right? Whether that be brown noise or for me, I work 100% virtually from home, and old me would never have let me do that because that accommodation would have been considered unacceptable. When will you get back to being the better version, the more normal version? You can just sit in the accommodation and go, I need this and this is what I need and I'm proud of it. And like, that's cool. I think like, I love that to like celebrate those accommodations almost as like, look at this cool thing I've found. I've unlocked this new thing. Like a reframe there can be really cool. I think for me, it's been helpful.
Well, and I think like for a lot of us growing up undiagnosed, neurodivergent, and then getting diagnosed later in life, a lot of us didn't realize, and you and I had this conversation before we hit record, that like growing up, we have that realization afterwards of like, oh shit, wait, that was me stimming. That was me trying to find a way to like get myself to focus on my own, not knowing what I needed in that moment, and then being criticized, called out by a teacher for being, not paying attention, being inattentive. And it's like, oh, that was my brain just trying its very best with the tools it had in the moment. I can go back. This is how traumatic my advanced English teacher was my freshman year. Still remember, still fucking hate her. Don't remember her name. That's how insignificant she was. But I remember I would write notes in class. I was a very big note writer. My best friends, they'll all be like, you wrote the best notes. And I'm like, that's all. It's because I needed to focus. I'd write like, I'd make them all extravagant. I'd put parentheses. I'd make the text all big. I'd make it engaging. It'd be like a story. That's how my notes were. And I would do that to focus so I could take in what the teacher was teaching. But of course, writing notes in class, you're not paying attention. And it's like, well, okay, Then you're going to take away the boy's fidget spinner when he's doing that to try and focus. But me writing notes, that's bad because I'm still focusing. I still have good grades in your class. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then, it's taking the note from me and reading it, like just shaming me. And then it's, being told I'm airheaded and not paying attention. And I realize now all those like stupid teenagers telling me that I was airheaded and am I a natural blonde? And it's like, no, like my environment was too much for me. And y'all make it like there's only one way to learn and one way to use my brain. And yeah, we could go on that whole thing. It sucks when you look back at that and now you have the tools that you need. You find what you need and you're like, oh wait, is that coming back? And now I have a way to actually fix that. And it's like, well, fuck, I wish I had that back then. But even if we didn't have that then, having it now, setting us up now, 10-year-old Mandy is going to be grateful for that. 15-year-old Mandy is going to be grateful for that, for finally being understood in that way. And I think it just takes time figuring out what works. I am literally sitting here with my fidget spinner so that I can stay on track.
Yeah, I'm just like happily swaying away and I'm not going to stop because
it's keeping me focused.
I'm going to do it. It's helpful. It's helpful. And what it will do is, actually, I'm going to take a step back for a second, zoning in on the shame part of this. Because I think that is like, even saying that word, like shame, like my voice cracks it, like you say it powerfully, shame. Like that shame piece is like so visceral for me. I have a similar memory from school. It's so funny how these things stick with you. I have a memory of reading, it was like story time, and I don't know how old I was, but I was having like a really big emotional response to the story. Like it was sad or something like that. I was having feelings in my body and I stood up and I started moving like intuitively.
Yeah, to get it.
I needed to like, I was somatic. Like, oh, I've got to move. And I was literally unaware that I did it and then called out and like mocked by the teacher and then kind of subsequently mocked by classmates. And then immediately I just felt this like,
you're the weirdo. Why couldn't you just sit still?
And a change on my like physiology takes place because what are the ABCs of that scenario? I learned that when I have an uncomfortable feeling, what I should have learned is when I have an uncomfortable feeling, you do the somatic movements, whatever comes naturally to you to process it.
You had the healthy response, yeah.
I had a super healthy response. And then the consequence is that you will have metabolized that feeling, that experience, and come out the other side without it bothering you anymore. You're over it. You shook it off, right? What I actually learned is that when I feel a need that I have, I should suppress that and I should hold it in.
You learned to not trust yourself.
Yeah. And I learned to actively ignore. It was punished. The behavior of listening to my body was punished. Flash forward 20 years, in my mid-20s, I'm having full-blown physical and mental breakdowns because I had been suppressing my needs, my like basic needs for movement. And you'll see me doing it. Like when we're talking, I might shake, I might chew my lip, I might like raise my hands up like this. Like I let it all hang out now because I'm so much better like this. You want me like this. Like you don't want me like I
right. You don't want me reactive and snapping.
Yeah. And also like,
sorry, that was how I handled things.
No, that was how you handled it. I have handled it that way too. I've been the reactive dog, the lungy barky dog. I've been the shut down, freezing, frozen dog.
Right.
I've been the fawning dog, being a clown and goofing around and mouthing on people. I've done it all. Like I get it. But for me, the big part that like really unlocked things was like no shame. Like there's no more shame for me around doing these things. And I have a partner who is also neurodivergent and they're just kind of coming out on their journey and they tick or stim sometimes. And I make a point of celebrating it. Like I said, good breath to you at the beginning of this recording. You took a deep breath at the beginning. And I was like, good breath, Mandy, like celebrate it. Sometimes I'm like trying to take a deep breath quietly so no one looks at me. Fuck that. I'm going to take the loudest, biggest deep breaths. I'm going to stick my tits out. Like this is a big deal. These are skills, hard-earned skills, right? Like, so when I'm jiggling and you're fidgeting and doing stuff like that, I think of it as like, honor it. Yeah. Like it's big it up, like gas up your friends. You know, it's like when you go to like queer events and everyone's just like, so flamboyant and just really just gassing each other up. The whole point of being there is to be like, I love that you are so freaking queer, right? Like I want to do that for my neurodivergent friends. Like when they have to put brown noise on, I'm like, what a fucking awesome thing. Yes, you're a rock star. Crush it. Yeah. Like I want that attitude towards that stuff. I don't know.
No, it's been so reinforcing. Like when I told you like all my neurodivergent like management tools, you're like, yeah, I'm like, Yeah, that is good. Thank you. I need that.
How
But it
starved are we of
helps.
that? How starved are we? Sometimes we don't even know how to take it sometimes. Like sometimes when I do this to my friends when they're first, like if I'm first meeting someone who's neurodivergent and I'm like really pointing out all of their things and going like, I love that about you. That's so cool. I see people going like, whoa, Karishma, we don't talk about these things. And I'm
Right.
like, oh,
Like, why are
come
you
on.
pointing that
Like,
out?
yeah, why are you pointing it out? Is it? But it's not. Because if we shine a light on it, that's how we can observe it and see it and realize that it's not that scary. And I try to do like a process of almost desensitization and counter conditioning where I'm like, notice you did this thing. That was awesome. Here's a cookie. Love that thing. Need to do that here. Keep doing that thing, please. And it's cool to see how people change when you let that happen.
Well, and you let them feel safe around you.
Yeah.
You become that safe person. And I think a lot of us need that because a lot of us didn't grow up with that. Like my husband, I didn't notice for the longest time. He would just go, and I'm
Literally
like,
just did that.
and
So
I'd get annoyed when he would do that. And then I'm like, wait, he's releasing, he's stimming, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to celebrate that. I need to not snap at him when he does that because he needs that. And when I finally had that realization, I'm like, oh. And then you just think of like the big picture of everyone else and how they handle that stuff. And I'm like, okay, I like keep your biases to yourself unless you're going to encourage someone. Like, there's no need to minimize when they are trying to regulate themselves.
that's the coolest thing ever. People regulating themselves is like a radical act, right?
Yeah.
It's the best thing you can do for your community. You want to solve all the problems, regulate your nervous. Everyone should just regulate their nervous systems more. And if you model that to people, other people start to do it too. We are such social learners. I wish that like our culture had frameworks in place for this stuff more so than it does around a bunch of men kicking a football around a field. You know, like I wish that we had cultural frameworks. And, you know, in lots of indigenous cultures do. Not gonna lie, it's just white people that don't. Like lots of indigenous cultures have those frameworks for regulation, co-regulation. I spent the morning doing my partner's hair this morning, and it's just like a very wonderful thing to do. And I would never have let myself do that 5 years in no time. You know, I don't have time for that. I've got to spend a whole day worrying about this podcast interview. That's much more important. That's what that would have been me 5 years ago. But I don't know. I love celebrating that stuff, and I love to create environments where it's celebrated, and that's part of that community thing, right? We celebrate the dogs and all of their neurodivergence. They want to stand there and sniff for 5 minutes after seeing a fox. Go nuts, do your thing, bro. And sometimes I'm gonna need to go and watch like a whole season of Desperate Housewives and lay on a heated blanket in the dark. And that's also fine. Like, what is it you need? Like, we got this. Because if you let animals do that, they turn up better versions of themselves, right? And
We need our own enrichment.
problems, literally. Well, literally, yeah, exactly. The enrichment framework really works in this context because it's like looking at all the different needs that you might have. It's the same for people, but that's how it is. Like, apply it to the dogs, practice with the dogs, and practice with yourself. And like,
But we never make it back to ourselves. We're like, no,
we never make it back.
We're
to
not the
ourselves.
dog.
I didn't for a long time. How did this happen with me?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like,
yeah, I'm trying to think of the story. I'm like, how did this work?
Was it 2020? Because I feel like all of us kind of like were face to face with it in 2020 of like, oh, these tools don't work anymore.
Yes. I feel like it's been like an up and down thing, right? I think for me, when I started, I think there's a starting point, a significant point in this journey for me is definitely when I started working with dogs. So mid-20s, 24, 23, at my lowest point in my mental health. When I was really struggling, I couldn't work properly because I have a physical disability called EDS, which means that too much movement can sometimes cause me pain, and I was physically laboring. So anyway, not feeling great about that. Came into dogs and started to learn, not really expecting there to be much there. I was like, I love dogs. It's going to be great. We're going to have the best time. As I started learning, it was nothing I'd ever heard of before, like not punishing animals as like the core of a philosophy. Like I sort of started working in a very R+ training place, and I was learning all of this stuff and going like, wow, I've literally never heard this in my life. I've heard that when someone does something wrong, you should tell them that they're wrong and then move on. It took years for me to apply that to people, to be perfectly honest. And I'm still finding ways to deepen the way I apply to it with people and myself. But for me, it happened out of necessity, honestly, to be perfectly frank. Like, I think I would be dead if I hadn't learned these skills. Like, to be perfectly frank, like,
yeah,
that's
same.
that's where I was going. Like, I was falling and I caught myself at the end. And it was a large part was the being around the animals and then learning how to interact with them empathetically that gave me the tools to lift myself out. And then it was 7 years of rewriting over and over again, every 6 months, wiping the slate clean and writing it out all over again. And it's like you said, like everything is dog training and dog training is everything, we're constantly having to just reconfigure how we conceive of like ourselves. My training, I was working in person, now I'm working virtually. I used to teach dogs to sit and now I don't. I used to play fetch and now I don't. I used to drink and now I don't. Like you learn and you get better. And I think of it like it's just a skill of behavior change, right? Like I always joke that I pray to the gods of behavior change. Like if I were to have a religion, that would be my religion. Like the framework through which I see the world is behavior. Like it makes sense to me because I'm a human. So obviously it's going to make sense to me. But it happened out of necessity because if I hadn't have started to gain those skills, I was desperately searching for those skills. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Oh yeah,
Is that
where you're grasping like something, click it into place.
Something to make sense. Yeah, we were talking before about therapists, and it's a funny parallel because at the point where I started looking and finding training and behavior, I was at the end of working with like a year or a year and a half in therapy twice a week for these challenges that I was having and my anxiety and like that kind of stuff. And it made me worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. For me, that particular therapy with that particular therapist was not good. Just like for many dog guardians, training sessions with particular trainers might make things worse, right? That doesn't mean that all therapists are terrible. It just means that it's a very complicated profession working in behavior, and sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's not. So I was at my lowest and I was ready. I was like, anything. I was like, the fancy white man in the coat didn't fix me. Now what? Now what am I going to do? And it worked, to be perfectly honest, right? Like I started to shift my conception of things from a very punishment. I was mean to myself and I was mean to everyone around me and I hated everyone. I was like the classic undiagnosed autistic ADHD. I was in pain, physical pain. So I was grumpy as fuck. And I just enjoyed
a dog that's in pain has behavior
the
problems.
Parallels. No one's missing parallels. Come on.
I just had to break it down.
My sounds a little like dog training, Karishma. I was in pain. I had a negativity bias around everything in the world. I would joke to people that like I would see a kid, and it's not a funny joke actually. I shouldn't joke about it, but I'd see a kid and I'd be like, that kid's gonna have a shit. But that's like a dog looking at a person and going, but that person's dangerous, right? It's a negativity bias because of learned experiences, genetics, the environment, all these other things. And then,
dog, are we the same person?
I'm Mandy for real though, because we're Scorpios too. And my big breakdown happened in April as well. There's something going on. We all have to chat about this. You're a November Scorpio or an October Scorpio? You're October, right?
I'm October, so I'm more emotional. I'm a Pisces moon as well.
I'm a Pisces moon as well. Fuck off. Yeah, because we're like scary, but actually just a
big baby softy. Yes. We put on a big mask.
Hysterical. I love
Oh my
that.
God.
So
We're going to have to
funny.
break that down more.
Yeah, we'll just go for a drink and chat about that.
Like a full 48 hours probably.
Yeah. A Scorpio date. We'll do it.
But you touched on the like being mean and like that is something. Okay, so this is going to be funny. So, and I bet you have a story to relate to this. The principal called my mom when I was in elementary school because kids were complaining that I was giving them mean stares because I was the kid that would just glare in class and be angry. And I'm like, poor little baby didn't know how to regulate her emotions and felt so many things that she would freeze up and just glare at people like, get away from me, don't interact with me, shut down. And they were like, what's wrong with Amanda that she's like glaring at everyone and doesn't want friends? And it's like, oh,
something's wrong with Amanda. There's something wrong with the environment. The antecedent arrangements were incorrect. And then they blame you.
Yep.
And
I was bullied. So I'm like, how am I the mean person? Like,
but then you blame yourself as well, right? Then you internalize that and then you start blaming yourself. It's like they colonize. It's like an internal.
If I wasn't so weird,
right?
If I wasn't so blah.
You weren't so different, if you weren't so outside of the norm, if you didn't have these needs, etc., etc.
How all this stemmed from necessity. And
some people don't believe me when I say that I was to be really mean and like a Debbie Downer. Like I was like a dark cloud. I felt like that. Like compared to now, I did not have any of the communication skills that I do now. I didn't have any of the emotional intelligence skills that I do now. I was a very, very different person. And just like the dogs, I was tough. I was puckered muzzle, you know, like, you know, and agonistic, you know, ready to go.
Like just feel all tight. Like
felt unsafe, like all the time, unsafe in my body. And it fueled behaviors that then made me more unsafe. It was this pattern, right, that we see happening all the time with many animals. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious. Well, yes, I do. I do want to jump in. I just don't want to interrupt your train of thought.
No, please go. I'm good.
I'm curious when you like notice that in yourself and notice the like snarkiness, the meanness, because I noticed this with myself. I'd be like, no, don't do that. But then it's like, I can't help it because that was just the reaction I had. I just would pop off. And then afterwards I'd be like, why did I fucking react that way? That's not helpful. That's not going to make them like me anymore. You and I actually had an interaction in like 2020. Do you remember it?
Was that about the BLM stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I was so triggered in that moment, man.
I know you were. I know you were, and I felt defensive.
Streets. No, me too. Well, that interaction wasn't even us talking. Like, it was like little avatars from like however many years that I literally completely forgotten about that. I was so context for that, because this conversation was post George Floyd. I was in New York.
Yeah, for everyone listening. Yeah,
for context. Yeah, post George Floyd. But everyone was in.
It was literally. It was June. Yeah, like 2020. It was in the heat of it.
Oh God, yeah. I was so like scared at the time because I was in America. I was actually undocumented at the time. Got some juicy gossip for you. Got some juice. I don't care. Whatever. And
but that's a scary time. Yeah,
it was a scary time, and I was just popping off at anyone. That was a time when I was much more like that. Actually, it's a great example. I would never behave like that ever in a minute. I basically, what happened is I reached out and Mandy did something that pissed me off, and I was like, "Oh, you pissed me off, Mandy." And Mandy was like, "Oh, you pissed me off now." And it was like the classic internet interaction. It wasn't actually that bad.
It wasn't that bad, but I totally, now that we're ahead of that, I've been wanting to talk to you about this because I have always felt like
about it, Mandy. I didn't even remember it happened.
Hold on to everything. I'm a fucking elephant. I remember everything good, bad. But it's because I hate how I reacted in that moment, because I felt that I had no right to react the way I did in that moment. And I had wished in that moment that I would have contacted you and handled it, but I don't think you were in the place to hear it either. Like it was so clear from and it's cool that we're having this conversation now.
Yeah.
And we're so like we love each other, we're friends now. And
yeah,
3 years ago, I wouldn't have pictured that happening. I thought you fucking hated my guts. And I think you had a right to with how that interaction went. And for the last 2 years, I thought you hated me because of that interaction
as well. Yeah. I mean, I would probably think that too. If I were on the receiving end of my spice, I would have been like, "Ooh, that
was just as spicy."
We're both spicy, but that's because we're the same person, Mandy. I look back at that and I laugh at myself like I laugh at the little puppy in me. I was like, well, I don't laugh actually because that little puppy was quite upset. I don't laugh at that. I was like,
and that puppy had a right to be upset. Yes.
Yeah, it was a really shit time. It was COVID. It was like just a really, really dark
We were trigger stacked.
Everyone, I think everyone was so trigger stacked. That lack of safety was so imminent and real. And like you mentioned earlier, you were like, when you react in a way, if you do react snarky like that, you then go, oh no, why did I do that? Blah, blah, blah. That shame thing again. Like I take a lot of accountability for my behaviors. If I ever behave in a way that I don't like, I like to be very honest about it and be like, I did not like that. Like we're doing that, right? We're like, we didn't like that. That wasn't great. But I try not to, and this is learned through many, many years of reframing. I try not to then go, you made a mistake and therefore you're bad. Or you made a mistake and that was wrong. That was wrong. Because it wasn't wrong. What we both did was exactly the best that we could do at that time.
Yes.
Right?
No, and the tools we had, we felt big feelings. We didn't know how to get them out the right, healthy way.
Yeah, I've read Crucial Conversations 5 times since then. Like, if you haven't read that book, we definitely should.
Damn it, Karishma.
Sorry. Crucial
No, it's good. I'm going to list all these.
Crucial Conversations gave me so many skills to navigate those social media conversations, which now to me, we were talking about this earlier before we started recording. Now to me, when I see things on social media, I giggle. I have even the horrible stuff. Even when I see really nasty stuff, I'm just like, not thinking about it. Silly people being silly. Like I don't care in the way that I used to. I used to care so much about everything that I saw that used to upset me. I couldn't handle that trigger. It was a big feeling for me. You mentioned earlier as well, what is it? One of the things that helped shift that. To be perfectly honest, I'm one of those cases where training is not enough. I needed meds.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
I needed meds.
Yeah.
But it's a great example. I'm a high achiever and I really put my mind to things when I am focused, and I focused on my mental health for 2 to 3 years. I was fully focused on it in my early 20s, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse with all the standard treatments that were being provided to me by the NHS at the time. And that's because I have a very rare chronic disease. I am autistic. Yeah, I am brown. These things all change the care and the treatment, but they didn't know that.
Right.
So
Did you lose your train of thought?
I lost my train of thought. Help me where I was talking about healing. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
had to take meds, basically. Yeah. So I had to take meds because I tried really hard with all of those traditional therapies. I went to multiple different therapists, just like people go to multiple different trainers. It didn't work. It got worse. And then I remember starting SSRIs, and there was like a shift one day, a few months in, where I like looked at a tree and I was like, I just remember literally this moment in the park, but literally right there. And I looked at this tree and I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful tree. And then I was like, whoa, what was that?
You never were able to take that in.
Bias? I was
Yeah.
pretty deeply depressed the majority of my like adolescence and childhood, just as a result of like, growing up in a kind of family that I did and the environments that I did.
Learn how to survive in that environment you're in, and then
I learned how to survive.
You got through
and I
it.
shut down.
Yeah.
And I love that version of me. Like I don't feel like I made the wrong response or I did the wrong things in those moments.
They were
I'm like,
powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
they did
thank
what
you,
they
little
could.
Karishma. You did a good job. Like we're here. You nailed it.
And now I can take over and steer the ship.
And now we've got the tools we need, and it's not that
Right.
difficult anymore. And I can go back to that little person and go like, hey, look at this. It's not that bad. And that makes it so much easier. But for me, it was meds, honestly. It was a mixture of meds. And then, moving away from like white medical practitioners being at the center of my care. Yeah. I stopped putting my medical and mental health care in the hands of people who didn't completely embody the values that I need them to value to make me feel safe, right? So now when I learn about therapy and I do my therapy, I'm making sure that it's for me, it's the right therapy.
Yes.
Not just what everyone else does, because that doesn't work for me. I need something different. But meds and therapy, the combo, that was it for me. And I think, honestly, if I hadn't used those medications, I don't know what would have happened. And also, I worked for 2 years with no one telling me to take meds. It's just like the dog stuff, right? Like, why did no one tell me? Well, then you
I've been asking that for like my entire childhood. Why didn't anyone tell me anything?
Drives me mental. So that is a trigger that I still have, apparently, because I had an emotional response there. I'm still working through that for myself, for sure. I get triggered with the dogs a lot when people don't give the dogs the health care that they need in these moments when it comes to stress management. That is something that I'm like still working through a little bit because I feel that in my chest. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to show you better take care of them. Like,
I remember one of my really good friends, Namita, she pointed out that because it's just this stacks on trauma and our profession, it's if you haven't experienced physical, mental, emotional abuse, you will not understand why those of us that choose to train R+ are so passionate about it, because you can't learn when you are in that abused state. Learning is not getting done. It's more of protective learning and how to work through that. And so I think that's why so many of us are so passionate about it, because trauma happens to everyone. We all experience it in different ways. And those of us that get into this profession, it's because we care so much and we understand with the animals. And a lot of us, I had this conversation with Annie Phoenix that a lot of us animals, that's the first time we've experienced unconditional love. And that's why we're so, that's why we 100% care so much.
Absolutely. Of course, we are going to care so much as people who have experienced and empathize with the things that the animals are going through. But a big thing for me has been learning to manage those big feelings. I don't think I could have continued being a dog trainer if I hadn't learned how to manage those big feelings. And for me,
absolutely,
they showed up in like my private work with my clients with just being on an emotional roller coaster with them with fewer boundaries. And in my social media world showed up with, I was a little pit bull. I was like, let's go. Like, let's fight. Like, I even called it, sparring. Like, I'd be like, let's fight. Like, let's go. And I've been sucked into that. Even in my,
it's so easy.
Even healed versions of me got sucked into it on social media with less elegance than maybe I have these days. In that area, we could scroll back and I'm sure we could find some spice.
Oh,
it is not a reflection of my best self. I would be like waking up at, 5 a.m. and then just like opening TikTok and being like, let's go, boys. I'm like fighting in the comments for no reason. Why? And I remember thinking, what's the function of this?
You're waking up reactive.
Yeah, but why was my question. Like, so how
it was reinforcing in a certain sense.
100%. I identified 2 of the emotional systems that were at play in this. Okay. Rage. I was raging, and I was raging because I was triggered. because of my emotional trauma and my consistent re-trauma just at the injustices that I see around me from my various communities. And like, I wanted to stand up for that little version of me that was bullied, and I saw that version in the person in the dog, and I would come out swinging, you know?
Absolutely.
So there was rage there, and then there was also fear because I didn't feel good enough because they were criticizing my work and things that I hold close to what keeps me feeling safe in the world. And so when they were saying, you're wrong, you need to put a shock collar on, and you're actually doing a disservice to this dog by not, I felt rage and I felt fear. And so that's what was fueling all of that behavior. And the minute I saw that, I was like, I will not let them win. I will not let that be. A minute I saw it as that, I was like, oh, I'm angry because I'm triggered, and I'm scared because I feel like I'm not good enough. And I managed to get to the root of those things with community, I think, to be perfectly honest, because now I can turn up to an internet debate with having been in a group meeting with a bunch of colleagues who are so validating and affirming to me, not just in the way I train dogs, but in my neurodiverse needs, in my needs as a non-binary person, in my needs as a queer person, as a person of color. I like creating an environment that truly, with people who truly understand and people who truly like lift me up. So now I can go on TikTok and there can be someone making that comment and I go, oh, that's I'm not that scared because actually I'm pretty badass and I'm not really very like threatened by your opinion right now. And also I'm not that mad because I live an amazing life and I am not that person anymore. And actually what I'm doing in the world is creating change in a substantial way, and I'm not going to get sidetracked by this silly little internet argument.
It's
and
a blip. Yeah.
It's nothing. You're nothing to me. And 2 years ago, I could never have done that. I would have been drawn in because I would have been so angry and scared.
And the need to defend yourself and prove yourself to what? Who's this person?
Yeah, exactly. But also, it's not true. Like, I'm not at risk. I'm safe. I'm safe. I have not got parents bullying me. I have my own house. I have my own business. I control my life. Like, why am I so mad at this person they don't threaten me at all? And that just really helped me to be able to be like, oh, actually, lol.
I love when you say lol.
Lol. It's just so true. It's a really autistic thing I do. Sometimes I also say the words of the expression that I'm feeling. So if you say something sad, I sometimes go sad face instead of actually making a sad face.
I do that too.
You do? It's fun of that. That's sad face.
So with all of this, like, this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast. And the whole reason I told you this when we first met to talk about having you on the podcast was because I listened to the episode of By the End of the Dog you were on with Mike. And the way you have executed your business and set it up to accommodate and just set up your mental health, like you're just kind of setting up the building blocks in a way, not only for yourself, but for your employees and your staff, and making sure their mental health is in check. And when you said that to Mike, I was just like, oh, they got to come on and explain that, because in order to have a good social media presence and a successful business and a happy staff that likes working with you and you enjoy your job, it takes some fucking effort and a lot of mental hoops to jump through to figure out what works. And so how did you even start like realizing like this needs to be a priority? If we want to be successful and grow, this needs to be a priority.
I've been bludgeoned over the head with that lesson for the last 3 years. In repeatedly not prioritize, or in repeatedly being in environments where that isn't a priority, and then seeing the damage that it does to people. So I used to work in like a really classic, like big facility, and it just like sucked from the people who did the job and delivered up top. It was like very classic system, you know, when you see like the two privileged middle-aged white women on top who are exploiting a bunch of queer people of color, often who struggle with mental health, unstable housing, etc.
Yep.
It made me feel sick, honestly. And I ended up being fired on the spot with no savings, nothing, and then sued when I tried to work in the city because they felt like they could do that. And they'd been successful in the past doing that with people to read out competition.
Capitalism.
Luckily, I won and I'm still here.
You won in more ways than one.
I also took half of their staff as well with me because they all joined CCA. And now a lot of our staff are people who are looking for something better and different. And by no means am I saying that I have this perfectly. In fact, the last 4 months has been humbling as fuck for me because I've never struggled with CCA. We have never, ever had to cut anyone's pay. Even through COVID, we didn't fire or reduce anyone's pay. Everyone was taken care of. And I took a lot of pride in taking care of people. The last 4 months have been challenging for us. And I haven't been able to be as perfect as I would like myself to be at
Air
all
quotes.
times, at all times forever. So by no means is it perfect, but what we have managed to create is a group of trainers who are like just trying to commit together to support each other and then create better systems, acknowledging that those systems don't exist. Like, I'm not like, we're going to do this thing here. I'm like, I don't fucking know what I'm doing, but that sucked. Does anyone want to do something else? And that's how it started. And I'm in that stage where it's growing and I'm trying to adjust to the stage that we're at. So I'm no longer seeing a full schedule of clients. I actually haven't taught for a few months now. I'm really focusing on like making sure the trainers have everything they need. And we're getting to that point now where we're starting to reshift. So it's a work in progress is what I'm saying. Much like all of our healing work, I think of us building CCA very much like healing work. Like, I'm trying to create a space that didn't exist before, and it's going to be painful, and I'm going to fall on my ass, and I'm going to fuck up, and that's okay, right? But it's just like dog training. Like, there's no one way to do this. We're kind of all making it up as we go along, right? Like, we're learning from different people, but you get to just like create the world you live in, kind of, which is
a concept.
That's what we're trying to do anyway, and we're working on it. We're only 3 years in. I forget. I'm really hard on myself about this, but I only started this company 3 years ago, and we had the pandemic in the middle, and it's a lot. So I love them. They're the best. They literally, they're amazing.
Well, yeah, I don't think
hang out with us one day.
I would love that. Don't give me an invite. I will go over there as soon as I can afford a ticket.
It's so fun.
But I think that's why you enjoy what you do, and why you have lasted as long as you have is because you have selected the right people to have close by, and it's all people that are willing to grow with you and go through those growing pains with you and know that mental health is a priority to you. And so they will feel safe in their workspace, which in turn is going to make you feel awesome because you're providing that safe space for people. It's a big old trauma healing, good workspace.
It's like nature's medicine. Like, it's like, okay, I'm a real gardener. I like to garden. I grow vegetables, and it's all, when you're creating like a fruitful garden, you have to have different fruits and vegetables. Traditional capitalist gardening is thousands of corns, thousands of tomatoes in a row in a field, right? If you're going to go cool and be like radical about it, you plant all the plants together. It's called co-planting, and they all support each other. And you actually have a better yield over longer periods of time with healthier soil, and you don't have to do crazy shit like spraying pesticides everywhere. Like, we are meant to support each other integratively and imperfect. I really believe that. And that's something that I try to let happen at CCA, and it's imperfect. I'm imperfect. I get triggered by people in the community. People in the community get triggered by me. And the whole idea is that like, that's fine. Like, we're all kind of crazy little dogs, and it's just about figuring out, where does the barrier have to be? Okay, we'll put a visual blanket here. Okay, well, this trainer needs the white noise machine and this trainer needs that. And it's hard. It's not easy, but I think it's the thing that's kept me here. Like you said, it's that connection to other people. And I see everyone in our community benefiting from it as well, because better as a result. Sometimes they come up to me and they're like, people will tell me that I did something wrong, and I'll be like, and then like a day later, thank you. I needed to hear that. I love you. And it's like, I hate businesses that use the word family, because I think it's just so like tied with exploitation quite frequently. Like, we're just a family. We just help each other out and perform free labor. Hell no. But like, I want it to be like a community, like where we're allowed to be imperfect, but we all hold each other accountable.
It's like a co-op almost. Yeah.
Kind of. And that's what I'm actually navigating right now within my business, is that like, it is my face and name on things. So I'm a struggling. I mean, you talked with Milena about delegation. I am learning. I am trying. I'm doing my best, but I am a classic control freak. It's hard for me to let go, but we're working on it together. That's about creating trust, isn't it? And so we can all like lift each other up.
You and me both. The way I've always described it is like, I have my stove and I have all my pots, and I like to control all my pots. I don't want anyone touching my pots. I got the burners. I know what I'm doing. But then more comes onto the stove. Things go in the oven, and then I can't juggle it all. And then I'm like, somebody take over. I don't want to give that to anyone else. Meanwhile, my husband's like, we need to get you a VA. We need to figure that out. I'm like, I can't even like pull out of my brain like what I need them to do. So I was
right. 100% agree. I felt and still feel a lot of resistance about working in groups, collaborating. I hate it. I hate it. It's weird that I'm here. I hate speaking in public, being witnessed and collaborating. And it just so happens that it's just my fucking job, but I need it because I don't like it for I wasn't though, Mandy. I was so bad at it. Like eye contact. I learned, look at 3 seconds, look away. How do I hold my face when I'm presenting? I did it all. I learned it all. I operationalized it all and learned it all. And I'm in the process of operationalizing delegation. And by operationalizing it, I mean, I was listening to Melena's podcast and she was like, you really just got to delegate and like give things to other people. And I was like, Melena, how do I do it?
I know. I'm like, she didn't explain how to do it. I'm like,
I was like,
how?
Melena, I am here. Delegation is here. How? How do I get there? Right? Like that's what I'm in the process of doing. So
it's the trust of passing it off and knowing they can do it.
Trusting yourself as well to know what needs to be done preemptively and not just react in the moment. Because I react as a business owner, like you're saying, I'm spinning plate and I see a plate going down and I go, oh, quick, gonna go over there. It's very reactive. So when someone tells me I'm gonna have to sit down and go bullet point by bullet point, how do I make a reel? Okay, I open Instagram, I do this, I do that, so that I can then explain to the person. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You want me to do all this labor that historically
like there's a tornado in here. Yeah, I can't pull them out.
And communication and collaboration has been very punishing for me in the past. So I'm already like,
guarded.
Like, how are you going to ruin it? You know, like,
no,
so
exactly.
So fucked up. Not true either. Because these people that I'm working with now, like I say, you're safe now, you know, like you can collaborate safely. You can make a mistake and no one's going to yell at you. You can misspell something and no one's going to be like, you're never going to get into university. But like, well, for real though, like that's the experience so many people have as they grow up. And it's punishment culture, right? Consistent small punishments. They shut people down. And they shut me down. They shut the dogs down, but we're not there anymore. So I don't know. I haven't got it, but I'm working on it. And it's a big part of my healing in community healing in community is still a big thing that I'm just starting almost in the last year. So highly recommend everyone does it. Even if it's just like one person that you're like, you're my dog training buddy and we're going to bounce ideas off each other and have a meeting every week and hold each other accountable and like just like vent at each other. It's the way that you get through this. Like you sent me a few questions that you might be asking me before and I was looking through all of them and I was just like community. Hang out with people.
Most of these. Yeah. Well, in this industry has been so isolating for so many fucking years because we have never felt like we can talk to each other. And not to toot my own horn, but I mean, I am feeling like it is helping others realize that they can talk about the mental health struggles. They can reach out to each other because we all fucking experience it.
100%. Absolutely. And I forget that people aren't like this anymore. Like I remember when we first joined the call and you were like, we were talking about something, you were like, thank you for sharing that. And I was like surprised that you were thanking me for sharing it because I'm like, what? I'm TMI all day, every day. Like too much information.
I value the TMI.
I don't hold back ever. Yeah. So I forget that people aren't like that though. Like in my community, like we can join a staff meeting and I'll tell you like, I was crying 5 minutes before because of this. Or like, I haven't pooped today, guys. You know, like I'm talking TMI, like Indian family TMI. Like I don't hold back anymore. And that shame has gone because I don't give a fuck. Like I have these badass people who like I care about and they care about me and like, I don't care anymore. It's so great. So
it's freeing.
It makes you invincible almost. Like, and when you don't have that with your family, like many people in this industry don't, because we often exist in some sort of like fractured identity, whether it's like being queer. I think I'm quite funny because I hit all of them. I'm like, bingo, you know, I'm like queer, neurodivergent, gender funky. I've got it all, you know, it's like ding, ding, ding. But like, you might not have that with your family, which is why we're so drawn to the animals, right? I really want the people in our industry to know that you can have that with the people too. And they're likely the people who are around you on social media or listening to this podcast or in the same webinars. Like those are your people probably. And like, we might not be as good with people as we are with dogs, but that's fine because we all have a side of it. And that's fine. Like we can all just like be imperfect together. Like,
and like all of us feel that way the same way. And so obviously we're all going to work together the same way because our brains are relatively on the same wavelength. So like
Also, they can be very triggering for each other. So sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Probably a triggering thing, but like we can be really triggering for each other as well. Like
True.
It's something that I experienced at the beginning of CCA. It was like me and a few folks who all had a lot of similar wounds. And there was a time at the beginning where we hadn't figured out what we needed and we didn't have that sense of safety yet. And there was a little bit of like conflict at the beginning because we didn't know how. And then, we'd do staff meetings and I'd be like, we're all going to go off and read the Crucial Conversations book because we need to learn how to communicate better. I wish I could have done that with my family, right? They would have laughed at me, like, come on, like, yeah, Karishma, but like we're safe now, we're in a space where we can do those things. And like, I want to really stress that it didn't come easy and that we're fighting tooth and nail for it. And it's hard, but it's worth it. Just like with the dogs, like it's not going to be easy necessarily to like learn a whole new thing, right?
It's a learned skill. I mean, healing is not linear. Healing is continuous and ongoing. And if you are healing in a community where you can trust one another, that's going to heal all of you guys in a certain way. And it's just going to make you better trainers. But it's hard. And I feel like a lot of us, we feel like we can't reach out to others and network when it's like most of my friends are from the dog training community. Most of my friends I've made because of woof culture, because that helped me find my people.
Yeah. And everyone who works within CCA now just messaged me at some point, it's like sent me a dumb gift or something. And I was like, hey. And then we kind of learned that we had a lot in common. And then a few years later, we're all working together. And, people start off working part-time and then move to full-time. And then suddenly you're like, whoa, when did this happen? Like, you're like my sister now. Like, what's this?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay,
you are
cool.
family. You're a unit.
Well, yeah, we're like a community is I think the word that really speaks to me. Like, is that like interconnection and like we're all holding each other up. We're so much stronger. Yeah, because I can fall. But previously, if I stumbled, I was fucked. I wasn't getting paid. Like no one else was making the money. Now I have help, and I help them, and they help me, and it's the coolest. We all help each other. It's very happy families. But flawed. And important. I really just want to I can't stress that enough.
No, I love that you stress that.
I have made so many mistakes.
But I love it that you're so real with that because I think it'll make others realize like it is achievable and it does. It's
well, listen, it's the true next step of not punishing. You don't want to not punish. Don't punish yourself either. Like I made a bunch of mistakes. Like you want to actually integratively. You want to actually habit this. Stop thinking about how you interact with everyone else. How do you talk to yourself? Because when I stopped talking like that to myself, that's when I truly was able to extend that to other people, right? And so now when people fuck up, I just go like, yeah, that's what happens. No worries. What are we going to do next? And I expect that from my people towards me as well.
My brain just went off like a little like firecracker. Well, because I think that's just, oh, you're so awesome. It's just... It's because this is what people need to fucking hear in order to really know that like they can grow their business, they can delegate, they can network, they can find their people they need to get there. And it takes time and feeling ourselves out, but really it does. You're so fucking right. It starts with the conversation we have with ourselves and how we talk to ourselves. I said this, I don't know what episode it was, but like I am the first person I would break a promise to.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Absolutely. And then you don't trust yourself. And how does that set you up to move through the world?
When you don't trust your judgment, you don't trust making decisions, you second guess everything. Hi, hello, me right there.
That's what happens. You have a deep sense of unsafety and you start hyperactively producing to try and, then you burn out, which just validates this preconception you had of yourself as not good enough. It's a whole thing.
It's a spiral and it just keeps going.
It's a trap though, and it's not fair. And it's a trap that was made. What really helped me was just like, it was a trap that was made by old white men. Don't let them win. Don't let them win. Like it just makes it seem less powerful when I think about it that way. I'm like, oh, it's not this thing about me. It's just an antecedent arrangement that a few blokes set up. And they were just pretty lucky at the time because they had ships and guns and other people didn't. And that's how we ended up here, basically.
And no one thought to like question it.
It's not our fault, right?
Right.
And I just love that we're in a business which, I mean, controversial. We don't love an unregulated industry, obviously, for safety reasons. But low-key kind of like that it's the Wild West out here. I kind of like that we can just can't rewrite the script. There's no governing body telling me you have to do it this way, because if they did, they'd probably be wrong anyway, right? Because there's no one way to do anything. I like that we are given the opportunity to like rewrite everything, wipe the slate clean, let's start again. And we do that with the way we interact with animals, the way we interact with ourselves, the way we structure our businesses, the way that we start to prioritize mental health, knowing that actually that will trickle down into better profits for us down the line. Like if you want to be a capitalist, you'll still win. You're still winning Monopoly, everyone. Like this is just a good tactic.
But how are you going to feel about yourself afterwards?
Right.
And how is your staff going to feel?
That's the most important thing. Yeah.
This is why I have admired you so much for this long, is just because it's the way you fucking executed your business in a way that isn't the way it's been done. And I think that's why I bring on the guests that I bring on, is because people aren't doing it the way that they tell you to do it. Like when you went virtual and I saw you launch your business, I was like, oh fuck, like during COVID, like that was scary, but you kind of just went full steam ahead, confident. It looked confident to those of us that were watching, just so you know. And so
I was confident because I had data. I had data to back myself up. Like I'd worked in person for years in fancy places that charged a lot of money that I saw none of. And it was shit. That's great. But like the service wasn't good. Right. And I started working virtually and I was like, wow, this works. Wow, I have it all on recording. Wow, I can watch it and I can see that it works.
Yes.
I was confident. And that's the thing that's the coolest, is that, I don't know, my whole life I've been told that the things that I want to do are wrong. Like constantly, from the minute, whether it's getting up to move when I'm feeling a certain way, or being a dog trainer, that was not the right thing to do as a South Asian oldest born, you know, like I should not have done that. I shouldn't have got neck tattoos and shaved my head and, you know, all these things. But they're wrong, because those are the things that bring you the most joy. Like creating a business that wasn't set up to rinse everyone for profit has brought me immense joy. And getting a neck tattoo so that I can be like, fuck you, mom, I don't have to be professional because I've done this by myself and I've rewritten what professional looks like within this community. It feels good. Like do the things that make you feel good.
Well, we have talked for almost 2 hours now, and I feel bad that I've made you talk this long.
I had a really nice time. It's really nice to talk about not dog training. And
I was hoping you would
intersection. Yeah, this is something that like the intersections and the like crossovers between dog training and mental health is something that we've been talking about a lot within CCA. So it's so nice to see it be like focused on this, because it's such an interesting topic.
You just stemmed a little thought bubble for me. What is the name of the program that you started? It's for professionals. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. But that is something I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, we don't have an official program just yet, but we do mentoring for dog trainers as a service that we provide with our senior trainers. So folks who've been working with CCA for multiple years and work fully virtually. So we are currently creating a more robust syllabus for training trainers, but part of the last 4 months has been slowing down and being like, I don't have to do it all right now. I can just chill for a minute, and
slow growth is growth.
Exactly. Also, no growth is fine.
Yes.
Are you kidding? I have like 15 people on payroll. I'm fucking fine. Like, we don't need to grow anymore. Like, I'm fine. I just want to tidy up my house a bit. You know, I've filled it with people. But if anyone is wanting to learn more, especially about virtual stuff or about how we work as neurodivergent folks, as folks who often might not have systems set up to benefit us, that's what we would be looking at. It would be looking at like a kind of package with one of our trainers, just like with dogs. You know, you come in, see what your goals are, and then we'll set up a mentoring package to like facilitate that growth. It's cool. It's cool. And what we're doing is we're working with lots of different trainers from all around the world. We're kind of learning what they need and what's missing. And then maybe at some point in the future, there'll be something very fun and sexy and exciting for everyone. But for now, I'm growing tomatoes, 4 different varieties of tomatoes, actually.
Oh my God, your garden. I'm so jealous. I can't. Oh my God. It's been so amazing having you on the podcast. I can't even talk because it's been so awesome.
You're 2 hours in, you're doing so well.
And I already, like, this conversation could go another 2 hours. So I want to have you on for another one and we can just dig into it more. But
I would love to.
I love you. I think you're so awesome. I'm so excited to see you grow and just expand this. And yeah, if you guys aren't following either of Karishma's accounts, you got to be.
Yes, I will send all you links to everything so you can pop them below. And Mandy, I love you too. Thank you so much for inviting me on and just being such a great example of like embodying the principles that we're meant to be teaching in like not just the dog training world, but in your business and in your day-to-day life and in the conversations that you're sparking with like people like big names like Mike Shakashi and Milena. I love hearing them talk about this stuff and it's been really helpful. So thank you.
And if you like what we're doing here on the Leashed Mind podcast and you want to help others find us, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, give us a rating wherever you got your podcasts, whether that's leaving a review on Apple or giving us a star rating on Spotify, or just leaving a little R+ on our Facebook page. It's all appreciated. Thank you, and we will be back with another episode.